Chasing bank robbers makes me hot and thirsty. Let's get a drink.
No time. They're here. Hey, you.
Oh, yeah? Hey, Kool-Aid!
Oh yeah, here comes Kool-Aid, here comes Kool-Aid, I'm gonna save the day.
Hello everyone and welcome to, once again, Kamen Rider Revice review time. So, Episode 7 just finished airing earlier today, actually last night by Japan Standard Time, and, you know, I've got some thoughts and opinions on it. But was it better than last week's episode? We'll get into that. Some more details are finally starting to come to light. We're getting a little bit more information when it comes to Daiji's whole persona, and kind of a little bit more exposition on what the professor's kind of going through. So, let's go ahead and get into it and break it down like we did last week's episode, focusing on the A plot, the B plot, the writers and the gear used, as well as the character focuses, and my general thoughts afterwards, as well as my rating. So let's start. Now, this week's episode starts off with a bunch of parkour action going on. These apparently are thieves. They're being chased by the police. I haven't seen parkour like this since probably the mid-2000s, since that's back when parkour was all over the place. However, they eventually get saved by the Cheetah deadman. Phoenix is already aware of this, and Iki goes ahead and asks the professor if there's any way to make a Vice stamp that would be fast enough to handle a cheetah. Now, I don't know why he didn't just think to use the pterodactyl Vice stamp. He already used Phi's Excel form with the pterodactyl Vice stamp, so why he needed something faster, I don't know. Another thing, we haven't seen the Kabuto motif in a Vice stamp yet. Why not do that? Kabuto's whole shtick is clocking up and moving fast. Okay. Instead, no, he is recommended a new Vice stamp, which is the Jackal Vice stamp, which is based off of X-Aid. The cheetah is already in phase 2, which, if you forgot what that means, it means that the human host and the demon have gone ahead, formed a contract, and they are one singular being. Thus, they can only be finished off with a rider kick or a finisher in that light. The professor ends up showing the new form, at least the concept of it, to Iki and Vice. However, Vice is not feeling the loincloth aesthetic that is coming on with that transformation. So, needless to say, it's apparently ugly. He doesn't want to deal with it, which, of course, pisses off the professor. He gets in his own little tangent, and we move on from there. Now, in terms of investigation, once again, Busan comes to the rescue, employing a lot of his expertise to go ahead and deduce that the thieves are probably school kids. They're gymnasts. And, you know, there's a little dig in there of Busan. What do you actually do for a living? It's a secret. Iki apparently goes ahead and investigates because, of course, he is just a passing through busybody. He does find out the identity of the thieves and deduces that the Cheetah deadman is actually the father of one of those gymnasts. There are about 2 fights that happen in this plot line. However, yes, he ends up using the Vice stamp, goes ahead and destroys the contract between the dead man and the kid's father, and that's it. That's our A plot. It's your Monster of the Week fanfare, and, you know, I really wish that they would have something that would at least span a few more episodes and not just be handled in one episode when it comes to their A plot. The B plot this week is actually a lot more slimmed down than last week's B plot, so we only get little exposition when it comes to it. Last week's episode kind of ended off with Daiji visiting the Deadman HQ, presenting himself as a potential ally. However, it seems like Daiji does suffer from having multiple personalities. In the beginning, he is treating Iki very oddly, kind of in a sinister tone, and it turns out that he ends up just coming to terms, or at least discovering, that his inner demon has a mind of its own. He has no recollection of any of the moves that he's been doing since he got the driver. And the new persona that it lives inside of him is called Kagero. Of course, we already know that Phoenix is well aware that Daiji is Kamen Rider evil. However, they refuse to, at least for now, tell Iki that Daiji is this new rider that has been showing up just to whip his ass. This, of course, still leaves Iki in the dark, but there is a little bit of a seed that is planted in Iki when he has his interaction with Daiji that's just something is off about him. It seems that the Kagero persona is what makes Daiji instantly transform into his goth emo self. However, once again, he has no recollection of anything that happens once he enters that transformed state. Hiromi, more or less, is actually the main focus of this episode, at least for the B-plot. From the outset, he has noticed that something is weird with Daiji, and even goes to the bathhouse to kind of let the family know that he ran into Daiji in the bathroom in his weird-ass outfit, with him having no idea of what he was doing before. Clearly, someone partied way too hard at the rave. In talking to the professor and the lead of Phoenix, I honestly still can't remember that guy's name. I'm gonna have to look that up. They kind of imply that it might have been Hiromi's fault in terms of his botched transformation into Revi in the first episode that might have cost Daiji to go over the deep end, bearing some sort of responsibility and just feeling conflicted on the entire thing. He gets presented with a rider belt, which, now this one looks good. That's a good looking rider belt. I don't know what the fuck keeps going on with the standard Revice driver, but they're getting something right with these next rider belts. Along with the belt, he goes ahead and gets the Spider Vice stamp, and with it, he transforms into Kamen Rider Demons. The B-plot kind of ends there. There is some fighting that happens between Kamen Rider Demons and Kamen Rider Evil, even to the point that he confronts Evil and asks him if he even is Daiji. But that is really it. The B-plot progresses the story just a smidge, but we have already been introduced to our third rider already, and it is only episode 7. The form showcased for Revi this episode were the Mammoth, cause Deno can't not have enough screen time. Look, just a little bit of a side tangent. Deno was a good season. It wrapped up nicely, but it just keeps getting overused so much. You almost think it's an anniversary rider show, but it's not. It's not. It's all right. It's an all right season, but I get it. It sold a lot of toys, so they want to keep the Deno train rolling nonstop. The Eagle form, which is the double homage, and the debut of the Jackal Vice stamp, which, as I mentioned earlier, is an homage to Exit. Now, honestly, this is probably my least favorite of the form showcased off so far for Kamen Rider Revi, and it's because the Jackal motif in itself seems lost in all of the Exade that's around it, besides like the little ears that he's got going on, and I guess maybe the claws. I'm not feeling very jackalish about this one. Vice transforms into a skateboard, so we get CG-licious Tony Hawk Pro Skater action with this, which is, it's alright. It's alright. X-Aid. Kamen Rider Evil is here. He's just here. He smacks on Revi and Vice, and mostly Revi. I think just Revi. And then, of course, then he encounters demons, and then they fight. But otherwise, he doesn't do anything. Like, there's no special forms or any special techniques used. We didn't get a rider kick on rider kick action. Those are always great, and I live for those moments. We didn't get that. And then, of course, with this episode, we get the debut of Hiromi as Kamen Rider Demon. Now, this is a cool-ass suit. So cool, I gotta put it in the thumbnail. And I see that TokuFan already beat me to it on Twitter, so fuck you. Now, the web shot from the side is honestly a very cool idea for a rider costume in general. It honestly reminds me a little bit of the Splatoon promo artwork that they showcased off before. For those unaware, I'm just gonna show that right here. And of course, the total armored look just screams that nice Metal Heroes ensemble that Kamen Rider has started getting way more into when it comes to their armor designs. The red and black color scheme in itself definitely helps his case on being one of my favorite suit designs, just because, in case you didn't notice, maybe I kind of like red. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Or it could be both. But I like red. The spider motif with the multiple eyes on the side, especially when they light up, is amazing. Love this suit. Right now, ranking all of the base suits between, of course, just the three of them. Technically four if you want to include Vice. Kamen Rider Demons is like the best outfit so far showcased off. So I really like this suit in general. There's a lot of cool tricks that he does in terms of his gimmick, in terms of pretty much releasing his spider webs hanging upside down and just, you know, blasting evil with webs. That's pretty much all I have to say regarding this week's gear. Now time for some general thought. First of all, we're not getting a lot of Aguilera, and that is a problem. I think we need more Aguilera. Once we get that, S tier. But in general, I feel that the plotline for this show seems to be moving at a very fast pace. It's already episode 7. We're up to our third rider already, and they're kind of advancing the plotline so much that I feel that unless they have a multi-arc storyline already planned out, where I would say maybe about this arc currently gets wrapped up by, say, episode 15 or episode 18, and then they tackle another arc for the next 13 or so episodes, and then another arc after that that kind of swings around back to the front, and we get our overarching narrative and all that stuff that finally comes to pay off, then I'm kind of concerned that they're probably going to blow their load too soon, and it's just going to fizzle from here. We've seen that with some writer shows before, where the writers seem to not have a proper endgame planned out, or they do, but then in the middle, they have no idea what to do, so there's just a lot of inconsistent padding that does nothing to propel the story forward, and it kind of sits at a standstill. Right now, I'm kind of getting those vibes, and I'm hoping I am wrong. And part of the reason why I say that the plotline just feels like it's moving too fast, looking into next week's episode, it already seems like Ikki's going to find out that Daiji is Kamen Rider Evil. And you only get one episode of mystery? That just seems way too fast for trying to advance the storyline. The professor for this episode, besides just being a little bit of a prude, we're not getting much advancement on him, but maybe next episode, the B-plot might end up getting very, very, very minuscule as time goes on until they get to that proper episode that will finally expound on everything that they've been building up for. But that's what my concern is. That the overarching narrative will get overshadowed and it will be more focused on an A-plot storyline, which is just Monster of the Week. Now, in some previous shows, especially in the later Heisei era of Kamen Rider, we did end up getting a lot of two-parters. So it would be part one episode, part 2 the next episode, and that would be the conclusion, and then starts the next one. With these, they seem to be sticking to the episodic standard of just having your standard Monster of the Week. That plot line not extending to another episode, but then your B plot is what you kind of get trickled out until the end. Overall, even though I like Kamen Rider Demons, I've got to say I'm not as big of a fan of this episode as I was last week's episode. Still no idea what's going on with the Deadmans too much. The storyline with Julio kind of being part of Iki's sister's karate class still has no payoff. We got like a 30-second view at that, and that was it. So no payoff to that. It's kind of a stopgap episode. Besides Demons, not much happened. So I'm going to rank this one a C. Anyway, what do you think about this episode? Did you like the X-Aid form at all? Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of it. However, Kamen Rider Demons though, how do you feel about that new rider? How do you feel about the transformation? I have very good vibes about that suit. I just like it. I don't know why. I just like the red. Otherwise, I will be back next week to review episode 8 of Kamen Rider Revice, and I'm honestly trying to think of what other content I can go ahead and put on this channel if I want to take a retrospective on any other Kamen Rider shows. Maybe talk a little bit about myself and why I'm such a fan of Kamen Rider, especially over, God, I think it's been 20 years now that I've been a fan of Kamen Rider. Tokusatsu in general, honestly. But otherwise, that's it for me. Leave your thoughts and comments below, and I will catch y'all next time. X-Aid.